Hello Internet, welcome back to Let's Make... What is this? Let's Make Asteroids? Is that what we've turned this into? I don't know, it's a... Oops. Smacking our mic kind of game. No, this is virtual reality asteroids. We've got currently spinning. Lots of spinning. Turns out, I'm pretty sure anybody could have guessed this, but this doesn't really work. Kind of creates more motion sickness than I would like. I mean, it's tolerable. It didn't make me throw up. It's not as bad as like a 60-mile-an-hour roller coaster, but it's pretty close. So let's not do that. What we have right now is this is just spinning. Our player, if I can look down, is just standing on one of these asteroids, and we've got our jets here. I just spawned a bomb, but that's fine. So what we're going to do is we are going to actually make those bombs explode. Right now they're just red squares that do something. Looks like our gravity stabilizers just kicked in and are going to continue to kicking in. We're going to need to fix that later, but we're not going to do that now. I have a little bit of time, so figured we'd record something to make the bombs explode so we can actually get kind of a dynamic environment going. So yeah, if you missed the live streams I did this weekend, that's where this is all coming from. So if you missed those, go back and watch those and you'll see how we got here. And then you can see us, this is going to be a fairly generic. We're just going to make something that's going to apply force to an object it's near. So for example, you're going to be able to drop one on the one you're on, and hopefully it explodes and moves things. So to do that, we are going to need a new script. I think what we'll call it is something smart. Let's call it bomb physics explosion force. I don't really have a naming standard, do I? It just kind of comes and goes. Sorry, Visual Studio's on the wrong monitor. There it is. So we have this class. It's going to have a force, and we'll set that equal to like 100, and it's going to have a radius. We'll set that equal to 10. And we might want like a damage too, but for now, I think this is fine. We're going to use probably message passing for this. So I'll create a public void on explosion. That's not how you spell explosion. That's how you spell it. Okay. So when this explodes, we want to first, so what we're going to be using is there is a rigid body dot add explosion force. It's not going to pop up here because there is no rigid body in this class, but we're going to be using this function. And you would think that this would apply it at sort of an explosion radius from wherever you are, but it doesn't. What it's going to do is it's going to apply a explosion force to whatever rigid body you call it on. And that's important because it means we can't just call that and be done with it. We actually need to find all of the rigid bodies nearby. And to do that, we can do some link. I think that's probably the best way to do it. One sec, gonna quick close and reopen this. And we're gonna do that because it was the wrong file. So I talk about this a lot, but when you load a new source into Visual Studio, it also Unity refreshes the solution file. And what that causes it to do is it doesn't do that immediately. And so since we open the code file, it's not in the currently open solution. So what ends up happening is that since that file isn't there, it's just opening the file like a general text file. well, like a general C# file, but it isn't loading it as part of this project, which is why we're not seeing any of the references that this project has. So that's why we're reopening it, because now you'll see, if you look at the extension up here, it's actually correct. I don't see one of them that's incorrect, or I'd show you that. You can scroll back and you'll see that it had the full path there. So, all right, on explosion, we want to find objects of type. Let's find all rigid bodies that have a length where the rigid body distance is less than the radius. Well, we're gonna have to be a little bit clever, I think, because we're gonna have to do some addition here. So where this transform position minus the rigid body's transform position, but we also want to, so this is going to get us the distance between the two centers, or the two origins of two objects. But at least with the rigid body, it's got a size attached to it. So if we have a big asteroid, its center is going to be right in the middle. But if it's like 100 meters wide, even if your radius is 50, if you're on the outside, you're never going to hit that middle point. So we want to account for that. So what we're getting here is a magnitude, which is going to represent the total distance between the two center points of our two objects. And so if we subtract the rigid body, there's going to be something that we can use here. I think there's something we can use. I hope there's something we can use. If there isn't, well, it's going to get harder. I'm not seeing anything that looks useful, so we may need to make it up. And to make it up, we can use this is a good question. So normally a rigid body has a box or some sort of constraints. No, not the constraints. But normally it's going to have some sort of size. And so what I want to do is I want to take that size and then find the maximum distance of that. And then we can use that as our addition. It won't be perfect, and it will get worse and worse as objects get longer. Actually, now that I think about this, why don't we just do the Minecraft way? So if you're unfamiliar, the way Minecraft does its explosions, at least the last time I looked up how Minecraft did its explosions, is it would take a point where your TNT was, for example, and it would cast out rays of variable distance up to the max radius of the TNT explosion. So it could go, I think it's like 7. So it goes 7 blocks in a random direction, and then it would do that an n number of times. So if we do this public float explosion density. So if we give it an explosion density of, say, 16, what that means is we're going to cast 16 random integers out from our bomb, which theoretically means we hit whatever it is. It may actually mean like they all go in one direction and we never actually hit the object even though we put it on the asteroid. So this will have some issues, but theoretically it should work, assuming that we have proper randomness, and I'm pretty sure we don't, but that's fine. All right, let's do some raycasts. We want physics dot raycast. We're going to want to use the ray. We'll create a new run and give it an origin of this position, and we'll give it a random direction. So random on unit sphere. So random.on unit sphere and random.in unit sphere, the only difference between those is this one is going to have a length of 1. It's going to be normalized. The other one may not be. So it's probably going to have a length less than 1. So now that we've got that, we can add a raycast hit, and this will just let us look up our object that we hit. And then we'll plug in that and the hit object as the out. I explained a little bit about out and ref in the live stream. So if you guys are curious about that at all, I recommend you go check out that. I did a pretty good job of explaining it. At least I think I did a good job of explaining it. My memory says I did a good job of explaining it, so hopefully it's correct. But it's definitely something that if you're working with C#, you should know how those work and what those are. So yeah, check that out. We have our raycast. When it hits something, we want to take, I believe this is going to be the rigid body. Yes. So if this rigid body is not null, so it'll be null if we just have a collider, for example, and no rigid body. I don't think, maybe if we add colliders to the controllers, for example, then this will become a thing. But right now, I don't think this is ever going to be false, but we're going to add it anyway for safety. So if our rigid body is not null, then we can add an explosion force. Add explosion force. And we're going to add it with the force from our current position. We're going to give it a radius. And we can give it an upwards modifier as well, which I don't think we want because we're in space. So there's no, I mean, the reason you give it an upwards modifier is say, no, that doesn't make sense. We're not going to use that. We're in space. There's 3 dimensions. It doesn't make sense for there to be a force up. Anyway, so if I remember this right, it's been a while since I've used the explosion force thing. I've usually just applied normal forces because I don't think I like this. But we're going to test it and see what happens. What it does is it emits a force from this position with a force and a radius that you give it. And then that affects both the torque applied to the rigid body as well as its velocity. So normally if you add just force, it'll just move something away from you, but it won't apply any of that torque that you would normally get with an explosion. So that's what this is for, or it's supposed to be for. I've had mixed success. I can say words. Words are my thing. All right. So this should cast 16 rays. It should hit things when it does. Then it's going to add some force. If it doesn't, nothing's going to happen. And then that's that. So theoretically, all we need to do now is before we destroy this, we just need to send a message called on explosion. And now this should call this for debugging. We're going to add just a quick log here for exploding bomb with, and we're going to give it a explosion density just so we know how many rays we're casting. We should know already, but this is mostly just for my sake, mostly because there is no reason, but Hey, don't judge me. All right. So we've got our thing. I should be able to go here. Can't do it from there. So I can drop this on explosion head. Oh, I'll hit my table. Desk. It's a desk. It's not a table. Well, it's both, but that's fine. Anyway, what happened there is our bomb did not have our new script. So bomb physics explosion force. I'm gonna up this to 10,000. And the reason I'm doing that is just so we'll know. If I drop it, why is it? Oh, okay, so it's being pulled there, and our player was in the explosion, so they are now flying away. And our platform is now slowly falling that way. So it seems to work. I mean, we're still going at a pretty good clip that way, and we're never gonna stop. Mostly because there's no drag or anything. So our player is now lost, and that's all good. So we found another way to disorient our player. Crap. We're gonna have to that's probably gonna need to be one of the failure mechanics. So if you blow yourself up, you'll blow yourself up. I think that says exactly all we need. So I think that's pretty much it. I don't want to get too deep into it because it is 12:15 in the morning now, I guess. So I have work in 7 hours, so I should probably get some sleep, but that's fine. We'll deal with that. But now we have a way to blow up these asteroids and apply some force. And now that we're doing this raycasting method, when we drop it really close, multiple of these rays are going to impact the same rigid body, and they're all going to apply the same force. And so that way, if a ton of them hit it, it should apply more force than you would normally see. Plus, it's going to fall off for distance and stuff. So that should add some additional randomness, I think. Hopefully that makes sense. We should be able to throw these too. Like that. Kind of works. Can't really see, the tracking is off because I'm holding it under my desk. Oh, I think we blew up our player. Oh, we blew up our platform, which is pretty much the same thing. And we blew up our player. There they go. Bye. All right. So I think that's as good a place as any to end it. So hopefully tomorrow we're going to get into making the player less disoriented. Right now it's very disorienting, especially when when they're close. Like I have them here, when you're trying to step between these, which you can do and is awesome. It tries to orient you towards both of these sides, so it kind of does like a seesaw motion, and it's weird. So I've got a few ideas. I think what we're going to do is we're going to have some way of toggling between them in game. So the plan is for one of these to select it, and one of these to actually do something. So two things I'm thinking is one of them is going to do a raycast, so you can point at a face of like the asteroid, for example, and it will set a plane based on that, and it will automatically do our raycast, hit that object, and say this is the up orientation we need in order to stand on this object. And then you just, when you want to move somewhere else, you just cast that again. The other one is you're going to be able to control the pitch and roll. from one of the trackpads. And I don't know if we're going to have any others. I'm also thinking of adding an air brake, because when you go get blasted off there, or if you just start accelerating really fast, you want to brake. Because the only time I've almost fallen over has been when I've rammed one of these things, mostly for my own amusement, but I feel like you may want more control than that, and I mean, you're in space, and it's hard to control. So I wanted to make it seem like you have some control, but there's still not too much. Anyway, I am rambling, so I am going to end it here. So thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys next time when we make all this actually work. But until then, see ya, Internet.